The Hawker Hurricane was a British single-seat fighter aircraft that was designed in the 1930s and saw exemplary service in the opening years of the Second World War. It quickly nuzzled its way into the hearts of British pilots as a sturdy, nimble and reliable aircraft. RAF test pilot Sammy Roth is quoted as saying that the aircraft is simple and easy to fly and has no apparent vices. Indeed, though sometimes overshadowed in glory by the sleek and curvaceous Spitfire, the Hurricane proved to be the steadier gun platform, could absorb more damage, was easier to repair, and was generally considered the more rugged and dependable of the two. It should be no surprise then that in War Thunder, the Hawker Hurricanes could be considered the most rookie-friendly fighters in the game, to the point where if they made it any easier, Gaijin would be obligated to put a Fisher-Price logo on them and start calling them My First Fighter. In today's review, we'll be looking at 3 different variants of the Hurricane: the Mk1 Late, the Mk2b Trop, and the Sea Hurricane Mk1b. These 3 aircraft are all pretty similar, with a few differences that I will clarify as we go along, so each one didn't really warrant its own video. I shall, however, be doing separate reviews for the Sea Hurricane Mk1c and the Vickers Hurricane in later uploads. Depending on what game mode you play, these Hurricanes will sit at a slightly different battle rating, but they are always within 0.3 of a battle rating of each other. Notably for air simulator battles, they all sit at a battle rating of 2.0. This puts them in the top of the EC1 bracket and makes them some of the fastest and most well-armed aircraft at that tier. Facing post-World War I biplanes in a spaded Hurricane is an exercise in sadism, and you'll come out of the game with both a big smile on your face and the slight feeling that you've probably engaged in an activity that would be frowned upon in civilized circles. Despite having a battle rating below the minimum requirement, these Hurricanes will also serve you perfectly well in the EC2 bracket, and being below the minimum BR requirement means you never have to worry about a cooldown timer. In terms of armament, the Hurricane Mk1 Late and the Sea Hurricane both come equipped with 8 7.7mm Browning machine guns and 2,800 rounds of ammunition between them, which is pretty generous for a low-tier aircraft. However, not to be outdone by its brethren, the Mark II comes with 12 7.7mm machine guns and 4,200 rounds of ammunition, which would make even the most trigger-happy American pilots squeal with glee. On top of that, the Mark II also comes with the option of being fitted out with 250-pound unguided bombs or 6 RP-3 unguided rockets, something the Mark I and the Sea Hurricanes lack. This generous wealth of bullets makes the Hurricane ideal for rookie pilots. You'll be able to go into combat confident that if you miss a few of your shots, you'll still have plenty more rounds to squeeze out in another pass. It's certainly a very different story in some other aircraft, particularly Russian ones, where if you so much as held the trigger for more than a few seconds, you'd have gone through your entire ammunition allotment faster than you could say gulag. The Hurricanes are exceptionally maneuverable, and in the hands of a skilled pilot, they will figuratively and literally run circles around every other monoplane at their tier. They can even go toe-to-toe with some biplanes in terms of maneuverability, just don't bother with the Russian ones. Although good at horizontal turn fights, the Hurricane really shines in vertical turn fighting, and surprisingly boom and zoom attacks, as although its old-school construction makes the Hurricane heavier than its rivals, it also means you'll retain energy much better in the vertical. Unlike a lot of other aircraft, this maneuverability does not come at the cost of stability, something that the Hurricanes owe to their rugged, albeit primitive, design characteristics. It takes off very quickly, and does so without spearing off 40 degrees to the left or the right to inspect the nearby hedgerows outside the airfield. It turns incredibly well without wanting to go into a fatal flat spin the moment you so much as look at the rudder pedals, and it is very, very easy to hold in level flight, and it is even better when trimmed up. The icing on the cake with all of this is that half of the rounds in the Hurricane's ammunition belts are armor-piercing incendiaries. The Brownings, unlike the 20mm Hispanos that were about as effective as firing blanks, are amusingly effective at starting fires in the often unarmoured low-tier fighters and bombers that Hurricanes often face. This, combined with the tight spacing of the guns, makes it very easy to target engines and wing spars on those larger targets. It isn't all sunshine, rainbows, and God save the king though. The Hurricanes, of course, do have some issues. Though they are maneuverable, most of the Hurricane's rivals will outpace it on outright speed, particularly at higher altitude. Not only that, but they have very poor acceleration and not the best roll rates either. This is particularly apparent with the Mk2 being weighed down by 4 more guns and 1400 additional rounds of ammunition. This lack of speed can be a real fatal weakness if you get caught out at a relatively low energy. The only thing you can fall back on at this point is your ability to outturn your opponent, as running away simply won't be an option. Though it does have a lot of guns, they are still only rifle caliber machine guns. Individually, your bullets will not have a lot of stopping power, and it is the reason why the Hurricane has so many. You'll need to give your enemy a fairly healthy lead injection to induce them out of the sky. Bombers, particularly the more beefy ones such as the German Condor and the Japanese H6 and H8, will present a problem. Now, how you use the Hurricane will depend on the tier you're fighting in. If you're mostly going to be going up against biplanes, then it's usually the safer bet to engage boom and zoom tactics unless you are very confident you can outmaneuver the old kite. Though I mentioned earlier the Hurricane has good vertical energy retention, allowing for the use of boom and zoom tactics, it doesn't pick up a lot of speed in a dive. It won't lose much speed pulling out of one either, but it's very important to note that the Hurricane is a unique type of boom and zoomer. It won't be like the sudden strike blitzkrieg affair of a 109 or the guns blazing shock and awe of a P-47 diving down on full chat. Think of it more like a slice of old England, wafting through the countryside on a Rolls Royce with 8 rifles poking out of the windows. If you're fighting against more conventional monoplanes, then you should always bear in mind the Hurricane's key weaknesses. It isn't particularly fast, doesn't dive very well, and it doesn't perform very well at high altitudes either. Basically, stay below 3,000 meters, keep your head on a swivel, and either dive down and pick off low targets, or induce a more vertically inclined opponent into a turn fight. If you can frustrate your opponent into turning with you, particularly a 109 or an early model 190, then you'll be laughing as you watch their burning wreckage slowly tumble out of the sky. Much like in real life, the Hurricane will often very quickly be outclassed in War Thunder as you unlock other planes like the Spitfires and Typhoons. However, I always find myself coming back to it, and I especially encourage new players in simulator battles to give the Hurricane a go if they are having trouble getting into that particular game mode. It's low tier, so it never breaks the bank, it's very forgiving and easy to handle, it has good guns, good looks, and you can fly around with the style and comfort of a wing-backed armchair, albeit a slightly more aggressive one.